Hello and welcome back to CEO.CA's Inside the Boardroom. My name is James Fatham and today I'm joined by Andrew Davidson, CEO and Director of Royal Helium. They trade on the Venture Exchange under the ticker RHC. Andrew, it's great to see you today.
Well, it's great to be here, James. Thanks for the time.
So let's kick things off with a quick elevator pitch for people who aren't familiar with Royal Helium. Can you give us an overview of the company?
Sure. I mean, Royal Helium is a helium production, infrastructure, and exploration company based in Western Canada, focusing on developing primary helium assets in traditional helium territories of, southwestern Saskatchewan and southeastern Alberta. We started up this company in 2016 with a view of changing how the helium industry works to some regard. Our key focus has always been maintaining independence and growing from exploration through to production, through to marketing and sales. And we've achieved that so far with one of our asset areas and looking forward to completing it again over multiple other projects.
Great. Thank you so much for that overview. I want to talk a little bit more about the helium market. Royal Helium is Canada's first publicly traded helium company. Can you give us an overview of the sector that you're operating in? Why is this commodity important? What are the fundamentals driving supply and demand, and what's your outlook?
Absolutely. So helium's an interesting industry in that it's always operated a bit in the shadows. It's been controlled to a very large degree by a number of industrial gas companies who handle most of the distribution and sales of end product. And, supply has largely been governed by what was called the Strategic Helium Reserve in Amarillo, Texas, which is a supply management system owned and operated by the U.S. federal government. That system no longer exists, and that's brought a lot of visibility into the helium market in terms of both the supply-demand gap and pricing. Traditionally, on the demand side, helium's been dominated by healthcare, and specifically MRI machines, where liquid helium is used to cool the magnets as the machine works. That's always accounted for, about 30 to 35% of demand. And other interesting aspects historically have always been, welding, industrial use, you name it. But what's changed in the last number of years is how often it's being used in the high-tech manufacturing sector, aerospace and defense, even all the way down to small modular nuclear reactors for power generation. And that's really put a strain on the supply side here. And that's where companies like Royal come into play, where we explore for, find, produce, and sell into these new and emerging markets. And what we're seeing is a change in that demand matrix, where things like aerospace, space exploration, semiconductor manufacturing, fiber optic manufacturing, all of these things taking an increased market share. And that's, to a large degree caused the significant spikes in price that we've seen over the last 5 years.
Yeah, certainly an interesting time to be in a market with not only that strategic supply management and price control system going offline, but also the emergence of these new sources of demand. Can you give us an overview a bit more on the supply side? Where are most of the helium reserves in the world coming from? What's the process like from the exploration stage all the way through to production?
Yeah, absolutely. So, helium is produced in a few different jurisdictions. The U.S. has always been the largest, but their share is declining to some degree. I mean, other jurisdictions that produce material quantities are places like Qatar, Russia, and Algeria. Canada is an emerging supplier. We've been producing helium here since the 60s, just not to a large scale. And that's really what's been changing over the last number of years with companies like ours and others, both public and private, that are coming into the exploration and production game. In Western Canada, it's a relatively simple transition to helium exploration in that fundamentally all of the exploration, including the drilling, is virtually identical to oil and gas. And as everybody knows, there's a very well-developed oil and gas jurisdiction here in Saskatchewan and Alberta. So all the way from early stage aeromagnetics and seismic, all of that stuff is basically one-to-one to the oil and gas industry. drilling these wells, we use all the same conventional oil and gas drill rigs, completions teams. All that is functionally the same. So it's a terrific jurisdiction to be in because there is an ample supply of skilled labor and services. Where it starts to diverge is once you get that gas to surface and how it's handled from there. In oil and gas, you can tie into a pipeline and make sales immediately. With helium, you need a purpose-built helium purification system to take the raw gas stream and filter out all of the components that are not helium, so that you end up with a high purity helium product at the end, because that is what is saleable. As a raw gas, the helium is of very little value because it's a very small percentage of the raw gas flow. So that's really how it works. And then as you purify, the way we've built it, we purify the helium on site. We put it into helium trailers, and we deliver that product to customers.
Great. And I guess looking at the year ahead for Royal Helium, can you give us a sense of your catalysts or news flow? What can investors expect in terms of updates over the rest of 2024?
Yeah, well, for folks who haven't been following Royal, the most interesting thing we've done, obviously, is start production at our Steveville asset in Alberta. The plant that we built there, we turned on in late November, and we began making sales in December. We're still in our ramp-up phase there, building towards the capacity of the plant. And so a lot of the news we make is going to be providing updates about that, about our pathway to full capacity. Aside from that, it's things like exploration and drilling on other project areas where we view, repeating what we've done at Steveville multiple times over the coming few years. Royal has over 600,000 acres of helium rights in Saskatchewan and Alberta. We've drilled 10 wells to date across 4 different project areas, all of which encountering economic concentrations of helium. So really what we're going to be looking to do, and the catalyst that people should be paying attention to, is how quickly we move to develop these other areas. Because the economics of being a helium producer are pretty well defined now by us, frankly. And the ability to replicate that over multiple regions is what really separates Royal from the rest.
Great. Could you expand a little on those economics? Are there any significant byproducts that are costly to dispose of or to process? What is the kind of base helium price that you would need in order for these projects to be profitable?
Sure. Yeah, so, helium projects in Western Canada are usually comprised of a couple of components within the gas stream, but universally, the largest component gas is nitrogen. And that's a terrific benefit to us. Nitrogen has no greenhouse gas effect. It is vented by us and by everyone else at their facilities. What we've decided to do, however, is look at the gas flow stream that comes up as entirely as a monetizable unit. And so our process sets to separate CO2, nitrogen, methane, and use all of these components. As an example, our plant is designed to be completely self-powered. We use the 3% methane that comes out of our gas flow stream, we purify it, and then we use it for power and heat generation, actually becoming a net power generator when we're at capacity. We also purify the CO2, and our plan is to sell that CO2 into the food and beverage CO2 market across North America. And to that end, we've actually signed our first offtake agreement for CO2 coming out of our plant. That's a unique design characteristic that we've built into our operation there. We also harvest off and capture any natural gas condensate or natural gas liquids that come out, and we sell those as well. So in the long run, what we're trying to do is transition into not just a junior helium company, but a junior industrial gas company where we have multiple sales streams coming from a single gas stream. It's a relatively unique way to go. I mean, it happens in the U.S. to a large degree, separating methane and helium, where natural gas is sold as natural gas and the helium is stripped off and sold as helium. But to approach things like CO2 and eventually nitrogen as monetizable units is quite unique and quite economically beneficial, frankly. It just takes a bit of a change in mindset over what is waste gas and what is actual byproduct and monetizable byproduct. And that's the approach we've taken.
No, very interesting. I guess, as they say, one man's trash is another man's treasure. And very interesting to see you monetizing those other gases that are in production there. I want to just wrap up with a little bit of a kind of look to the future of Royal. You've talked about ramping up production and becoming a kind of junior industrial gas player. Can you walk us through what your vision is maybe 5 years down the line for the company, and what are some of the milestones you need to achieve on the way?
Sure, and it actually reminds me, I didn't quite answer the full question with the previous version. That the pricing of helium has created this influx of people exploring for and producing helium as a product, and we've certainly benefited from that. We sell helium at an average price of about $538 US per MCF, which makes these projects quite economic. Certainly, when you find enough quantity and flow of helium. So we intend to capitalize on the economics that helium provides and give us the runway to build out all of these other project areas that we have and monetize the gases that come out of those projects as well. So we intend to grow into a relevant industrial gas player in North America. We're going to remain focused on North America for now. Export overseas is certainly possible, but we need to achieve a certain level of scale first. Our short-term goals here are really to take what we have at Steveville and multiply it by 2 or 3 over the next couple of years. And that makes us one of the largest, pure helium providers in Canada. And as an independent helium and industrial gas provider, we'll be one of the largest that is focused exclusively on selling to end-use customers, as opposed to selling to industrial gas intermediaries. And that's a unique proposition in this space, but it's something that is certainly doable. I mean, we've proven that now. We just look to repeat it. It is a very nice industry to be in once you've proven you can do it.
Great. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for giving us that overview of Royal Helium, and looking forward to hearing more updates throughout the year.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, James.